2020 candidates like Senator Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have taken to Twitter to blast big businesses like Amazon and Facebook, and so has President Trump. It may be a useful campaign strategy. Axios analyzed data from the High Lantern Group and found that candidates spark online engagement when they actually target companies for paying little or no taxes. Courtney Brown is a markets reporter for Axios, and she joins me now. Courtney, this is so interesting. I mean, you got Senator Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. They're quick to target companies like Amazon for not paying federal income taxes. What are the other businesses that are being targeted?
Yeah, so at the top of the list is Amazon and Facebook, but number 3 is McDonald's. And so that makes sense because they're also targeting these companies for about issues that would affect their workers. So pay, wages, all that types of things. Amazon's being targeted for that too.
You know, it's not just a left-leaning issue, though. You've got President Trump also doing the same.
Yeah, I think that was the most surprising thing. You know, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are at the top of the list, but number 3 is President Trump. Now, obviously, President Trump is not attacking Amazon and Facebook for the same issues that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are. I mean, President Trump calls out Amazon for owning the Washington Post, and he accuses them of being biased. Now, that's not what Elizabeth Warren is calling out Amazon for. Like we talked about, Amazon and Bernie Sanders are calling out Amazon for not paying taxes, not treating their workers as fairly as they think that they should.
So you see here with Elizabeth Warren, the workers' issues. How are these companies responding to the attacks on both sides?
I think what's interesting is that companies like Amazon are actually coming out and responding, sometimes on Twitter, sometimes in blog posts of their own. And, you know, Walmart, when we asked them for comment, they responded too, and they said that they hope that candidates engage with Walmart, because Walmart is pretty high up there on the list as well for being called out. They hope that candidates engage with Walmart instead of focusing on issues that they say aren't relevant anymore. They have raised wages for their workers, so they're not paying their workers as little as they were in previous years.
But are they concerned that some of these issues are getting traction in these campaigns, both on the left and the right?
Yeah, and I think we're going to have to wait and see how it plays out, because, you know, obviously we're just at the beginning here, and when we get a presidential candidate, I think it's not just going to be about talking. It's going to be about what legislation are they hoping to get across if they are in fact president, and how will it affect these big companies.
When you look at targeting these big businesses, how does this current election cycle compare to back in 2016?
I think what's fascinating about this list is, you know, there's no single bank in the top 10. You know, so it's big tech companies, it's more consumer-facing companies, but names like Goldman Sachs, they're not being called out by candidates in the way that they have in the past. Now, that doesn't mean that these candidates aren't passionate about doing things like reining in the banks. We saw Elizabeth Warren propose legislation today that would kind of be a big deal for banks that have merged or are considering merging. But as far as what they want folks to hear on Twitter, they're attacking technology companies.
Are they getting traction ultimately? Are businesses worried about the traction they're getting, or is it just something that they feel like they've got to address, but they don't think will have a lasting impact on their business?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know, but these companies they're in our lives every single day. So if there is a significant backlash prompted by what any candidate says on Twitter, I mean, these companies would ultimately feel it. I think about Uber, for example, the Delete Uber campaign, like that definitely impacted their business. Now, that wasn't sparked by a presidential candidate necessarily, but it was something that kind of garnered traction on Twitter. So there is this fear that Twitter mentions and Twitter campaigns could impact their business.
Courtney, I want to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.